Hello and welcome to Illumination Podcast with Nick and Kisma. I'm Nick, and today we're talking about how to have a bigger future.
Hello and welcome to Illumination Podcast with Nick and Kisma, bringing you ancient wisdom for modern day success so that you can have the mindset to get your life and business set.
As always, thank you for tuning in. And if you're new to the podcast, take a quick second to hit the subscribe button in iTunes, SoundCloud, or Stitcher. If you want to get the inside info for this and every episode, as well as some free gifts, go to illuminationacademy.net/podcasts. And now let's dive in to get your mindset for your life and business set. Well, little break for us, and we're back.
We are back. It's 2021, our first recording in this year. And yeah, we took a couple of weeks over the holidays. There was a lot going on.
Yeah.
And good stuff, really good things. So it was like, okay, let's take a breather. And I know that we wanted to wait till we were, in sync to sit down and record and really be focused on something, I think, dynamic for this year, for 2021. Because, we just want it to be freaking different from 2020. I think everyone does.
It's definitely heightened, but this is a thing that we often experience at the new year. That's why we did the Big Leap series and released that at the beginning of last year, because there is this energy right now. And I think that's okay. Like, that's an exciting thing. I think some people kind of try to poo-poo it, like, what's the big deal? It's just a new year. And I totally get that perspective too. But at the same time, there is a collective energy of like optimism and, we can do it and all the good things. Like, and that's really cool. Like, that's important to camp onto. And it's also, I think, really important to create something sustainable around that so that it doesn't lead through that whole cycle of expectation and disappointment and blame and then back in and through that again and again, and I think that in a big way, that's what the bigger future is all about, kind of exploring that and piecing it apart and seeing what that looks like for you. So we closed out 2020.
Yeah, I wanted to share with our listeners maybe our different perspectives of how we close out a year and enter a new year. And because it's just like you said, some people like really rah-rah. I mean, I think this year it's a little bit different. People are maybe more cautious because there was so much freaking over-potentializing on 2020. I mean, wow, did we get perfect inner vision in so many ways. But I always go back to, and it's something I was thinking a lot about, is I was teaching the intuition code, and we had the quantum prosperity leap going, these things we are closing out is, time is man-made. We made up time so that we could organize our life, so that we could harvest crops, so that we knew when there would be light and what the ocean, all of these things. And it might be wise to not attach to it so much. I like to think that every day is a clean slate. I like to think that every minute is a clean slate. And yes, you have the collective consciousness of people getting excited for a new year. And I think hope is, a big word for a lot of people. But for me, entering a new year, the way I was approaching it in December is very much like, how do I go to bed in order to wake up and have a good day? And that's really through releasing anything during the day that didn't serve, cut cords, and fall asleep in gratitude and setting in my subconscious what I wanted to manifest the next day. And maybe we'll do a whole episode on manifesting while sleeping in the future. But that's kind of how I was sort of being more stealth about closing out the year, and just really, okay, it was so much gratitude for what worked, learning from any mistakes, and just being release. Just complete healing and as much closing loops as I could, so that I could slide into 2021. And it wasn't with a bang. I took a couple of days off, which I have not scheduled days off I think that comes from the musician world. We would play.
You'd play your instrument basically every day.
Yeah. And I mean, when I was in Hong Kong, it was like, okay, we had maybe 10 days to fly back to the States and spend time with family. But it's usually I had to get back by New Year's Eve to play a New Year's Eve concert.
Right.
So New Year's Eve, we're working. New Year's Day, okay, you're off. And then we're back in rehearsals. And I was like, wow, I'm going to schedule, I think it was 3 days off. And then I took another half day and started, even though I was doing some content and stuff during that, started the New Year work with the Seeker Call with the ashram, which meant so much to start it that way. But even now, it's like, I feel like I'm sliding into it. It is not a big bang for me. I'm being cautious isn't the word. I'm very observing. I think I'm getting my energy back too. It was a little bit of a whew, it was a big year to release.
Yeah. It's a lot had happened. That kind of quietude. I was busy at the end of the year, but it tends to, for me, have a quietude to it.
Right.
It is a reflective time for me. I'm kind of assessing the year, and that forgiveness and closing loops. Those are huge practices for me during that time. It's to create a sense of organization. It's to look at like, okay, well, what can I close up? What can I make sure that I don't drag with me into the new year?
Right.
That I don't want to bring the old with me into it. And like you said, that's very true of a day. It's very true of a minute. It's true of like the perpetual now that we experience, just not dragging all the past into it.
Yeah.
But man, when you have an opportunity like the end, like a bigger cycle like that, it's pretty important, because as human beings, it's really easy to get lax.
Yeah.
You get lax in it in our lives, and then you just kind of collect it, and then, by the time you get there, it's really ready.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's a quiet time, and that, to me, that's an invaluable practice. And one of the loops I closed that was really exciting and opened at the same time was the sound healing.
Yeah. Tell us about this mystic sound healing going on.
I did. I've been having these on my mind. I've done a few smaller ones here and there. But I've been working to get it to broadcast properly for a long time, putting together the equipment, making sure that the sound quality is good, making sure that it's routed through the audio driver, like all the things. There's a lot that goes into broadcasting quality audio, especially with something like singing bowls and gongs,
Yeah.
And I finally got it off the ground. And it was with that specific intention. It's like, hey, the New Year's is closing. It's also a full moon. Like, let's close all the loops. Let's do some healing together. And it was awesome, man. We had almost 50 people enrolled for it for the very first one. And it's going to be happening every month this year.
Every month. So how do they find out about it? How do people find out? Because it's a live thing. There is no recording. There's like you drop in and you're in it.
I wanted it to be like a live experience. If you miss the concert, you don't get to see the concert. And I wanted to bring back that part of it. I think we're really used to having things on demand, and there's something very special about us all coming together. And so if they want to know more about it, I think the best thing to do is just to email us. Or if you go to my website, the page isn't up just yet, but it'll be up soon. It's nickhansinger.com/sound healing. And you'll see the information about the next one there, and you can get a ticket for it.
So good.
But it was really exciting to close that. That's been something that I've been wanting to do all through 2020. Hadn't really just got it, got my act together to get it out there. And I got to close that loop, to like, all right, like that project is in motion. I'm excited. It's really fun. People loved it. So
it's good. It's so good. I love it.
So that's part of my practice. And, it's something, like I said, opening a loop too, because it's something that I really want to bring into 2021 in a beautiful way.
Right. We had a kind of a fun little, with the challenges of COVID, I also say there's been these gifts. And sometimes we have to look for them, right? But the gifts are there. I mean, one of them, at least for me, was Zoe spent so many months here with us when she got out in New York City at the end of August and then decided to enroll do her online classes from here.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That has been so fun. Of course, she's heading back to New York soon, which is great for her. But we kind of snuck in on a TV show that she was watching, and it became like this really fun thing. I think it's our new favorite TV show.
It is, yeah. Great British Baking Show.
The Great British Baking Show. I mean, I bet we're like some of the last people to know about it.
I posted about it. There were so many people that
I know,
they
everyone's
love
watching.
it. I'm like, why didn't you tell me? You know, like, where have I been on all this?
Where has this been? It's so fun just to like, I'm staring at all these desserts and breads and getting in, because we're doing sort of like, we started in the last series, and we'd watch an episode a night as we eat dinner, and we felt like we really got to know the people. I became very attached to them.
They get voted off,
Yeah,
you know.
they get voted off, and you're like, oh my gosh. But it's just, I don't know, it's a funny, lighthearted, it's a great show.
It's really
I have so
wonderful.
much appreciation
I don't
for
even
it.
like to bake, you know.
I know, but I do love to eat cake and bread and stuff. So yeah, I don't know. I'm sure my sugar intake went up with that, but that was kind of a fun thing.
Yeah.
Like, you know, just an added little escapism there, but in a really good way.
It's our little happy show.
Happy show. So let's talk about this bigger
The
future.
bigger
thing.
future.
Mhm.
Well, we did a challenge back in September.
Which I messaged you today. I'm like, when was that?
I
It's
thought
like
it was October.
loss of time.
Yeah,
Mhm.
totally. But back in September, we did a challenge called the Bigger Future Challenge. And right off the bat, I knew we got to do this again. And we thought, well, what better time than right after the new year?
Mhm.
To camp onto that energy. And this is a time when people are really thinking about that. But we're also starting it at a time when most people start to fall off a little bit.
Yeah, right. We didn't start on the new year because we had just closed out some things. And it's like, let's give everybody some time to breathe. And I'm excited because I want, just for those of you that are listening now, think about the bigger future. You know, when I say those words, what does that mean to you? This is not the future that somebody else is designing for you. This is not the future that you think is the only future you can have. You know, one of the things that I was focused on in the intuition code with my students is so many people think about what they can't have.
Mm.
Instead of what they can have. And we really now must change and flip that script into focusing and imaging about what it is we really want. And so I encourage people to get like, what is that bigger future? I'm not saying you have to go out and buy a yacht or make $10 million, but bigger future is something around joy. It's something around connection, your relationships. It's definitely around money and abundance, and it's your future.
Right. It's almost a misnomer in a certain way, because bigger isn't necessarily bigger.
Right.
Right.
Mhm.
But what it is definitely more of the things that we want in our lives. You know, it could certainly be something to do with your career, your work, your income, something like that. But it's also about relationships, and it's also about the energy and vibrancy that we
Right.
share. It's like the presence, a
Right.
bigger presence about how we show up in our lives and how we
who we
impact
are.
other people. Yeah.
Right.
Who
we are, that we know who we are. You know, I always say you're a divine operating system. Do you know that? Are you stepping into that? Because when you do, you're going to have a bigger and bolder future.
Right. And it's really funny because so many times, especially this time of year, people try to do all the things all at once.
Mm-hmm.
And bigger future isn't about that.
Right.
Necessarily. It's really about drawing into ourselves to really gain some focus and some clarity about what's actually important. And then from there, the expansion is exponential.
Right.
Right.
That's great.
You have more energy, you have more clarity and focus, you have tools that you can use to make sure that you stay on your track.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And I mean, there's so many really cool components about this. Like when we originally designed it and put it together, I just got so excited, to hear you talk about the universal laws, and for me to be able to really talk about the energy. We call them energy keys, and how that helps us to live in harmony with those laws.
Yeah. So let's lay it out for our listeners, because we definitely.
I'm getting ahead of myself.
I know.
I'm getting
a little
excited.
I don't want you confusing people. The Bigger Future Challenge is a series of days. We start on January 21st. So as soon as you listen, and we're going to make sure you have the link and you know how to register, it's 7 days, and then we'll have some bonus days. Each day, I teach on a specific universal law. The universal laws are natural and spiritual laws that govern our lives. They always are in motion. And for us as human beings, we want to work with the laws and not against them. So, for example, working against a law would look something like this. Say you want to have more money. You want to increase your prosperity and money and abundance. Yet what you keep saying is, I don't have enough money. My bank account is so low. I'm really worried about my debts. All of that those lack words, you're putting out into what we call the universal substance, and they're taking shape. That is an example of working against the law of abundance or the law of vibration or the law of manifestation. Let's say you want a more intimate relationship, but all you can do is criticize and see what your partner isn't doing right. That's working against the law, because we want to use, say, the law of increase or the law of praise and focus on what is working. It is a phenomenon that occurs when we focus on what is working. It expands, it grows, because where energy goes, or where thought goes, where attention goes, energy grows. So these are just a couple of small examples. And when you understand, when you have the tools and the systems and the designs to work with the laws, life magically shifts. It's the best way I can put it. I mean, it magically shifts. And then in order to support it, because it's one thing to think about it, right? It's one thing to learn about it. Nick here, you're going to come in with energetic keys. So Give a little example of how that energetic key is going to make a difference in how people learn about the universal laws.
Well, I think first and foremost, it's about understanding in a more clear way how energy actually works in our lives.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's
energy is everything.
Right. That's part of the keys and being able to just be aware of what's going on with your energy.
Right.
So when we use the keys, like the very first one is all about acceptance. Really. And it teaches you how to activate your heart and how to really and truly drop into the present moment, not just like being aware necessarily, but really dropping into a deeper sense of presence in yourself and with a sense of acceptance as well. Lots of times people, they get really present and they get present to the wrong things and they get present to the things that agitate them and make things more difficult. Or as Kisma said, they get really present to what they don't have. And this is about shifting that energy and being able to have a key to unlock that for yourself. And every day we teach a different key. It was... the comments that we got about them were just like, so many people reached out to us. So many people have been asking us, is it going to happen again? When are you going to do it? And
we thought it was a one-off when we did it. And then we were in the middle of it and we were seeing the transformation, the changes and the healing and the abundance that was happening. We're like, okay, we'll do this again at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
And man, it's the beginning of the year. Like, I'm just shocked it came so fast, so quickly. But here we are.
Yeah. And the fun that we had.
It was fun.
If you only listen to the podcast, then you might think that Kisma and I are just like doing this kind of stuff together all the time, but we're not, And so when we started to really lead a group of people through it in that way, like, I just had so much fun. And I think you did. It seemed like you did. We just had so much fun doing it together and we got excited about it. So, the laws and the keys together really help us to just access like so much more fullness in our lives and so much more joy in the experience of life.
Yeah. And so what'll happen is we'll meet every day at 10 a.m. Pacific, starting on the 21st. The classes go for about an hour and they're put up live in the Facebook group. So we have a Facebook group called the Bigger Future Challenge. And the best thing to do for those of you listening is register, though, because we want to make sure you get the reminders. There's a way to get text reminders. So it's really easy to access. You'll either go to my website, kismaawake.com, KISMAAWAKE.com. It'll be right there in the header, how to opt in for the Bigger Future Challenge. Or
you can just go to my website. It's also out there. It's nickhansinger.com. And you'll see it right at the top. Join the Bigger Future Challenge.
Yeah. And the way we're structuring it, there's a free version so that anybody can join. So share this with your friends, your family. Like, we had mothers and daughters doing it together. We had people across the country doing it together. And then there's 2 other tiers. There's one that's called a diamond tier where you get a bunch of bonuses. And then something to really tune into that is very popular and very limited. It's called the VIP front row access. And what that means is when you register as a VIP, it's like $97. You are on Zoom with Nick and I, front row. You get all of the recordings so that if you can't attend, you're going to have the recordings. There are 3 additional what we call energetic prosperity group laser coaching sessions and a bunch of other bonuses. So it's such a cool way to get the best of what we do and to have that intimacy. And it's limited, right? Because it's a Zoom thing and there's only so many people we can give the attention to that we want. So if you want that, opt in and it'll take you to that video and the place to sign up. People always love being the VIP.
Yeah. It's just such a great place to be. So yeah, we can't wait to have you be a part of it. It's, I think, kind of a cool bridge. Like, if you've got somebody in your life who's like kind of into personal development, they want to have a better year. They're maybe not like super woo like you. Right. Like, if you're one of those woo people, it's a definitely a grounded approach to it. And it's meant to be, more practical for people and really accessible.
Right.
But yeah, like, us, like, we're going to get a little weird. Like, there's going to be a little weird in it. But don't tell them about that. You just share the thing and say, hey, I think you'd really love this, because the more the merrier. And we have plenty of room in the Facebook group. The VIP is limited, but we have plenty of room in the Facebook group. And we just love to have so many people in there participating because, when you look at that energetically, we look at this collective energy. Now, it's starting on the 21st of January. So 21st of January, that's about 3 weeks in. And typically what happens by week 2 is when people start to really drop off their commitments with their resolutions and their commitments for the new year, right? And that's one of the reasons that we actually didn't do it at the beginning of the year, because it's easy to camp onto that. But then what happens after, So great. So you've already got an idea, but this is coming at a time where you get to like really, really refocus your energy,
right,
and have a supportive community around you and be thinking differently and building tools and skill sets to be able to create that sustainably. That's the biggest problem I see with people with energy and in personal development is they're all over the map with so many different kinds of things, and they're trying this and they're trying that. And it's so easy to fall off, and it's an on again, off again thing. And when we really want to create a momentum in our year and in our lives, it takes that kind of consistency. Right. And that's exactly what the laws and the keys provide is an understanding of really how to work with the world. Right. And the keys to be able to access the energy through that and access a deeper part of ourselves through that.
It's like making the universe your best friend. And that's one heck of a best friend.
Yeah.
So we're going to be creating our bigger future as well. And we invite you to join us, kismaawake.com.
And nickhansinger.com. Yeah. I almost missed my cue.
You almost missed your cue. And also just to all of you out there that have been listening, we really do have you in our hearts and wishing you a very happy and healthy new year. We've had our experience of challenges on this planet, and we have full faith that not only will we get to the other side of it, we're nearly to the other side of it. And there's so many gifts and realizations for us to embrace. So let's do it together. We're definitely here for you.
Namaste.
Peace. Hey, thanks for jamming with us today. And if you enjoy Illumination Podcast, please go ahead and share it with someone you love. Give us a rating, review, download our podcast. And remember, you can find us at illuminationacademy.net/podcasts. Talk to you soon. Namaste.